I always get a little bit concerned, Rodney, when you straight face on. Mate, a big component of what has driven us into where we are with our clients now is seeing so many clients coming to us who are in some type of discomfort, some type of pain, some type of inflammation. Inflammation seems to be something that's huge in our industry. Everyone's talking about it, but we don't seem to be totally successful in being able to, one, identify the environmental factors, and two, what to do with it. You want to touch on that, buddy?
Yeah, and that's such a huge thing. And again, we're not here to be doctors, and we're not diagnosing people, but we know that inflammation is the number one cause of every disease in the world. We know that inflammation, systemic inflammation or inflammation of some form, is a huge component of what's going on in people's bodies, and we know that pain is a part of that. We know that pain is a limiting factor that drives people away from their goals, can change them. The effect that it has on the nervous system, especially the autonomic nervous system. And that's something that you and I have really kind of gone after is, we talked about in the first part that this is a systematic approach. So this isn't a shotgun. We're not out there winging stuff. And this is something that you and I have been doing for at least 7 to 8 years now. And it's something that in the last 6 months, you and I have been really applying and getting more systematic with what we do and how we do it, and on a large scale clientele basis, both of us. So it's something that's coming from a practitioner standpoint. And when we looked at the autonomic nervous system and we looked at the receptors that are involved, the fascia receptors, there's so many receptors, and there's so much play that goes on when we're manipulating the body, whether it's osteofascial, whether it's myofascial, whether it's isometric, whether it's mobilizers, and they're all addressing components. They're all addressing one or more of the mechanoreceptors in some form or fashion, and all of those are linked to the autonomic nervous system, or the nervous system in general. And what we're trying to do is create a system and a process that helps us to kind of hone in on where to go with that. You and I have developed what we call the PrEP scale. And a PrEP scale is just looking at the environmental factors, the stress. And a lot of it started at PTA Global. And again, this is a continuation, a very in-depth continuation of what we wanted to do at PTA Global, and never really got a chance to, nor was that totally the purpose at the time. And the PrEP scale is really looking at the person's stress level. And then based upon that, we have some modifications that can lead us to where may this be. Is it a sympathetically driven, or is it a parasympathetic driven? Because there's different ways that you're going to manipulate the tissue based upon which one it is. And that's where we have the different applications, whether it's myofascial release, osteofascial release, functional reconnecting, or the functional mobilizers. But how you do the techniques for each one of those can change the stimulation of certain receptors that we believe have, and it's not definitive because there's still so much open-ended, but we believe have a different effect on the nervous system. It also has a different effect mechanically. And so what we're trying to do is attack and focus on the areas, and using the tools or the applications and the specific techniques of these applications to try to hone in and address the inflammation. And from our standpoints, we're getting a pretty good track record with the clientele that we've used that's showing that these people's pain it's decreasing. Their mobility and movement capacity is increasing. Therefore, something has to be happening in the inflammatory state of the person at some form or fashion. And so that's what we're trying to drive at. And that's kind of where we've started with opening up and broadening the lead system and getting into the PrEP scale. PrEP, by the way, just stands for personalized regenerative programming. And the scale is just looking at the stress response, or the stress that the person's under.
Roddy, as always, that was just beautifully done and beautifully put it. And, you're exactly correct in the fact of, if we can get the best outcome for the client, in other words, how the client feels, it doesn't matter what we see, it doesn't matter what we do. That's the most important thing. And I think from a humility perspective, that's what you and I have both learned. One, we've been incredibly surprised over the last 10 years of applying these systems on what we've seen. But more importantly, the biggest surprise for the both of us is the way the clients now take responsibility for their own outcomes. They actually want to do the homework. They actually want to do the movements. And the thing I love about it is, a lot of my clients now, I've been in the industry for 1,000 years, just like you. And a lot of the clients I've got are, getting up in age. And the biggest thing they're really worried about now is independence.
Yeah.
They've worked hard. They've got a beautiful place. They live in a beautiful place in Queensland. They want the quality of life, but they want their independence to make decisions and to be able to still go and, source their own ingredients for food or to make decisions for business. And if we can get their bodies regenerated, we get their tissues healthy, we get their brain crisp, we get now the human being functioning like it should be, the ability for them to make problem-solving solutions is through the roof. And that's the thing that I'm really enjoying seeing, what's happening with the stuff that we're doing. My clients at, 70 and 80 years of age are up and about and doing stuff and making decisions and got great clarity. So, the importance of now understanding when we do connect the body back to the brain, and that the brain recognizes what the body's doing by having better communication, by getting the tissue to move and feel better, it's a big component. So, Roddy, now let's talk about, lastly, the collaboration. So we'll finish this and we'll be right back again.